Alright guys, here we are today working on this flash I just picked up. It needs a bunch of work. We're going to go through and we're going to figure out what it needs. We're going to fix it. We're going to clean it up. And we're going to play some pinball. Let's get going. When I first picked this game up, these wires were just soldered together to here. So I had to cut it to get the head off to get the game into my car. I always like to fix that. Um, so I got these pins here. Got some new pins. That's what they look like. So we're going to fix this connector here by putting these new pins in. And I'll zoom in here and show that repair. So that's just getting the connector back together so that next person that needs to move it can do it without cutting wires. Or I see all the time people put like little wire nuts in there and stuff. I just like to clean all that up, get the game looking like it's supposed to, and not looking all janky. So let's do that. All right, here, let's see if we can get these out. I got this little removal tool. These ones are blue. I think this doesn't say on here, but I believe these are Molex .063 connectors. I had a box of them, so that's what the box said, .063. We're going to pull these out. If the wire's on it, it's a lot easier, but see if you see this little connector here. It's got these little tabs on it. So if you push this in there, the goal is to push these tabs down so that you can pull this thing out of the connector. And like I said, with the wire on it, it's a lot easier because you have something to pull on. These ones, the wires had just been taken out already, so I push it all the way in, and maybe I can get it with this pick here. I don't know, let's see. I'm gonna fiddle with it here. Look like a noob while I'm trying to take a video. Spend some time on this here. I might need to pause the video, get a better. Yeah, I'm gonna try some different tools here, see what I can figure out. Alright, I got one out. That was pretty hard here. I got my needle nose in there and grabbed it. Put this on here. So the teeth are all pushed in. Then I pulled it out with the needle nose. Let's try to get this next one here. Last one. Try to get a good grip on it is the hard part. There you go. That was a pain. Alright, so now we prep the wire for the new connector. Alright, so here we go. Cut the wire. Cut the excess off because it's all nasty. Get to clean. Strip just a little bit off. Good. So now we take the connector. Got one of these little clipper tools. I'll put this in here like that. I like to get it in here just a little bit so it holds the thing. You don't have to try to hold it while you're pushing it in there. And you get that in. And you crimp it. Let's see how that looks. It's pretty good. Nice professional crimp. Now let's do the next one. Good enough. That's a little too much. Get in here. Perfect. Now on the other connector, let's make sure we put them in the right spot. We got goes this way. This middle one here is the white with the gray with the white line. Put that in there. And the other one goes at the end. We're going to push them in like this. In there. In there. That's good. All right, on this side, I'm just going to solder it because I think there's enough left here. I'm just going to solder these to here because the crimps all look good, the wires look good. And then I think we'll have a nice connector again. All right, so I'm working on the other side now. I just decided to, first I was going to try to solder, but I decided to go ahead and just do a crimps to it right. So we got the female side, we got the male side. As you can see, the female side also has these little tabs, so you use one of these poker tools. Probably a real name for this tool, probably not called the poker tool. But someone can write in the comments what this tool is called. I already had the tool. So you push it in there, and hopefully the thing comes out. We're going to do this one here. Get in. And hopefully you can wiggle the wire out. It's a little easier because you can pull on a wire. It's fighting me pretty good now. There we go. All right, so we got that out. Now we're just gonna cut it clean, and we're going to go ahead and put the new one on. Good. Next. All right, we got that one in good now. Just kind of ratchet it just tight enough to hold the thing there so you can stick the wire in it without having 3 hands, which I don't. Sometimes if it's not super tight, you can go one size smaller. There you go. Let's zoom in here. Looks good. What does this one look like? Looks good. So yeah, the goal is the first part here crimps the sleeve to keep the sleeve tight. Second part here crimps the wire. So this part gets the sleeve, and then the sleeve is supposed to stop here, and this is just straight wire. That keeps you from pulling it out, and then that keeps the wire connection tight. So let's go ahead and make sure we get them in the right spot again. One with the line, right in the middle, and this one goes here. Oh yeah, you're still zoomed in. Just push them in nice and tight. There you go. That's nice and good. And then I like to pull the connector tight. It looks like it was that way from the beginning. And then you put them together, and then you got a connector that is not junk. Anything you like. Cool. All right, now we're going to turn the game on and see what we're looking at. All right, so let's turn it on, see what happens. All right, so what I see is the display is missing some segments, the top and the bottom. That one's missing the bottom, maybe the bottom here. So we don't know if that's the display itself or if that's a connector issue. We'll dig into that. There's no light, no general illumination. The feature lamps are working. Feature lamps are controlled by the CPU. They turn on and off with the computer based on the game. General illuminations are on all the time. General illumination is not working, and the display's got some issues. What else do we got here? Here's some good bulbs, just so I've seen every bulb blow before. A shark can come through and blow every bulb. So I do like to check to make sure it's not just dead bulbs. All right, let's dive into it. All right, so I did find a blown fuse. See if I can zoom in here. This little guy right here, the gray above the capacitor. Let's just get here. We'll do it this way. Got a blown fuse here. This one here. In this game, that's the fuse for the general illumination. Here's the fuse. Very clearly blown. So I got a new one here. We're going to stick it in. And then I like to wiggle it around a bit, make sure it's in there nice and tight, which it is. So something to note is a lot of times the fuses from China are pretty close in size, just a little bit skinnier. And sometimes they work in these clips, but they generally do not work in here. So you really need the real fuses in here, not the China ones. For instance, this is a kit that you can get from China, and a lot of times they're pretty good. But if you look at the China fuse next to the original old fuse, and this is the metric size of 6 by 30. So they're just a little bit smaller, and then they're just a little bit, just a hair, not significantly, but they're a hair skinnier. They do work pretty good in these clips, and most of the time the fuses are in these kind of clips. So a lot of the times they're fine, but for these type of fuses on these Williams games, they do not work. All right, let's turn it on. Wow, we got lights. A bunch of lights are out, but the fact that a lot of them are on means that probably all have power. We got general illumination. We still got to look at the display. Does it start a game? Starts a game, but no flippers. No flippers, no sound. Does it score? Is it completely dead? Oh, I didn't hit anything and I got no flippers. Oh, score went up though. It did score. So it's not totally brain dead. Yeah, so lights are working. It's scoring. No flippers, no sound. All right, let's figure out why. And then the display issue. So my rule of thumb is if you got more than like 2 bad displays, just put a new kit in there that has all nice new displays. So I think I'm going to do that in this game. So I played with it a bit, and this one's kind of working sometimes. This one, I couldn't get that top row to ever come on, so I think it's probably a real problem. But none of these other, they're all supposed to be doing something, and none of them are. And I confirmed, I confirmed that this wire is putting out a signal because I plugged it into this one. I'm probably not supposed to swap these with the power on, but I'm doing it because I'm probably not going to use them anyway. So see that is putting a signal out. Still no top, which tells me there's probably a problem with the glass. But I'm checking all these other ones and they're just putting out nothing. So I'm just going to replace them all. And yeah, a new kit's really not that much. I'll do that in this video here. Figure out what I have a kit. I forgot what I paid for it. But anyways, I'm going to replace all the displays with nice new modern LED displays. They don't use any high voltage, which is nice. They don't burn. You can leave them on for long periods of time, and they're more accurate. I don't think that's right. So anyways, yeah, these displays are glitchy. Are they repairable? Maybe, but I'm going to put new ones in. All right. All right, so I have the game. It's in a game right now, and I am testing voltage to the flipper coils. So there's a ground strap down here. Next to this is the soundboard. By the way, I wiggled some of these around, and now I got sound. Okay. Oh, I don't got sound. Oh, there we go. That one works. So we got sound. This switch doesn't. Oh, works. So that switch needs to be clean. See how I push it? Now it's working. Anyways, we got sound. So here's a ground strap. That's a good spot to get ground for testing coil voltages. And I also want to note coils on a solid state game, not all of them, but a lot of the earlier solid states, all the coils had a diode, and that's so that the coil doesn't send a shock back to the MPU and fry it, or cause it to crash, or something about coil windings creating a surge. I don't know. Got to talk to an electrical engineer to get the full description, but they're very important to not send a shock back to the computer to crash the computer. So there's a side of the dial that has a band on it. That's the side that gets the power. So generally on a game like this, the power side is going to always have power. And then this is the side that goes to the driver board. So this one goes to a transistor. and then the computer will turn that transistor on and off if everything's working properly. And there's usually two transistors. There's a little transistor, the computer turns, there's a chip that turns the little transistor on, which turns the big transistor on, which grounds this side of the coil out. So whether you have ground or not has to do with whether your computer is working. Whether you got power or not is usually not anything to do with the computer. It's maybe a bad connection, maybe a blown fuse. In this case, I'm suspecting bridge rectifiers, but we'll get to that. So I'm going to show you how to test these voltages. Remember, we're testing for the voltage, not for the ground. So we want to test the hot, which is the side that has the banded diode. So I'm going to zoom out a bit here, and then we're going to set my meter up. Remember, we got ground to that ground strap. So right now, all I'm testing is power to the coils. All right, here we are. Sorry, it's hard to get a good video here. So my meter is 0 right now. So here's a slingshot coil. So I'm touching it to the hot of the slingshot coil. That's coil voltage. So the flippers are, I think on this game, the flippers are supposed to be 50 volts, and the rest of the coils are a little bit less. So this is the side of the coil that has the band. And there's also a fuse up here at the top of the playfield right here. This fuse, if that fuse was blown, that would explain why there's no flippers, but it's not blown, and both sides of the fuse are not getting power. So from the coil, we got blue. Blue goes to this fuse, and it comes out this white wire with a red stripe. So right now we're trying to figure out why this white wire with a red stripe doesn't have any power, which is why we got no flippers. All right, so I did trace the flipper wire back to this wire, which just happened to be disconnected or wasn't pushed in tight. That was my bad. So the flippers are working now. That was a problem. This wire came unplugged. But I've also had it happen many times. See, this wire goes to this, the wire goes to this bridge rectifier here. Bridge rectifier takes in the DC, turns it to, takes in the alternating current, turns it to direct current through a series of diodes. But so we can test the power coming out of the bridge rectifier here. Oh, that's backwards. So we can see that the bridge rectifier is in fact putting out the 34 volts. And then I'd plug this back in, and now we got flippers. Flip, flip, flip. We fixed the flippers. We fixed the general illumination. We gave up on the display. And then the sound, all we had to do was wiggle those connectors, and we got sound. So we're doing pretty good. We still got to clean wax and and test everything else, but we're making progress. All right, let's go ahead and play a quick game here, just see what's working, what's not working. Flippers could use some adjustment probably. You know what I wanted to point out here too. You see that there? It's kind of hard to see. Let me zoom in. So you see flipper wear, like right here where the flippers end. That's kind of hard to see. If I put shade on it. Shouldn't point out flaws in my game. But see when the flipper, sometimes you see wear where the flipper ends. That usually means the flipper bushing on the other side is bad, which is letting this bat have too much play. So that just kind of got, yeah, you can tell it's kind of got too much play. It might also be because it's sitting too low. Sometimes there's supposed to be a washer between the flipper bat and the bushing to make it sit a little bit higher. So sometimes that washer is missing, or sometimes the flipper bushing is broken, which is making it so that when it gets all the way out here, it's touching the playfield, which it should never do. So actually, let's go ahead and look. See out here, I'm not actually seeing the flipper bushing having any problems. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and zoom in on the flipper bushing. So that's this plastic thing right here. So a lot of times they're cracked, and then you wiggle the top, so I'm wiggling it, and it's not moving at all. So that tells me that the flipper bushing is probably fine, but there's supposed to be a washer in there, and at some point that washer got taken out. So the flipper bat is sitting a little bit too close to the playfield in general. So you want it to be kind of like right here. Oh, I hit the cord. Anyways, we're gonna have to go in and put washers in. No big deal, but that'll prevent any further. There's some here. That'll prevent any further wear from the flipper by putting that washer in. Super common. See it all the time. All right, what were we doing? We were playing pinball. So this drop target didn't register. That's usually a dirty switch. Worked that time. Sometimes just playing it for a while cleans the switches. That one didn't go. So I probably have to clean those leaf switches there. It's common for them to not work very well. That one worked. Nope. 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 That one needs to be all kinds of cleaned up. But the coil worked because it shot it up. So it's just switch issues. Probably might be a broken wire on that one because all of them are out. Or it could be a dirty switch. Play with that later. It didn't work. See, these rollovers don't work. You gotta clean. I bet you, yeah. See, if you hit it really hard, it works. So you gotta clean these switches so that they actually register when the ball goes over them. Make the game nice and responsive. That didn't register. When these switches get old, you gotta hit them really hard to register. So you just gotta clean them so there's a tiny little tap makes them register. So we gotta do that. But that's part of shopping the game out, which isn't really where we're at yet. Although we're getting there. I think now we gotta do the displays. There's a lamp test too. So we can go in there and see all the lamps working this game. But it's hard to get there with the displays not working right. So I'm going to do the displays first. We'll do the displays and then we'll go from there. So I got this these Wolf Pack displays that they come as DIY kits. You solder them together. They're good displays if you don't mind doing a little bit of soldering. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble this one now so I can put it in this game. Do it in high speed here. All right, that took a minute, but we now have the master driver and all the other displays here ready to go, all soldered in nice and clean. So let's plug them in and see if they work. All right, let's turn it on. We got all the new displays in. Wow, they all work. It looks much better, brighter. Cool. All right, what's next? I don't know. Let me think. What's next? All right, let's go into lamp test here. See how many lamps we got out. So here's let's see. All right, display test. Here's lamp test. All right, 8. Overall, pretty good. A couple of lights out. Not that many. I only see 8. I'm gonna go ahead and do those, and then I think it's time to put new rubbers on. We're gonna strip the playfield down. We're gonna do a quick clean and wax on this thing, and then we're gonna play it. It's gonna be good. All right, let's go ahead and take all these plastics off so we can clean and wax, make sure everything's looking pretty, and let a coat of wax harden up on here, and then we'll be ready for the finishing touches. I like to take my Dremel tool, clean the switches, so that when the ball taps the rubber that pushes against the switch, it doesn't take very much to register a point. If they're dirty, then you got to push them a lot harder to get the point. It makes the game less responsive. So I use my little off-brand Dremel with a little wire brush attachment. There you go. Like that. And that's all of them. Now it's time to put the fan on the game. Usually takes about 20 minutes for the wax to dry. And then you should get a nice white hazy haze on the playfield, and then we're going to clean it up, and it'll be nice and shiny and smooth, and the ball will roll with less friction because the playfield's nice and smooth, and also the wax protects the paint from paint loss from the ball rolling around. So it's good to keep your game waxed. Uh, people ask me how often should you do it. I don't know. Maybe it depends. If it's a home environment, the game's getting played once a month, then probably like once every 5 years. If it's on route, it's getting played heavily every day, then maybe once every 2 or 3 months. It just kind of depends. But average homeowner, like really once every like 5 years, when your rubbers start getting dirty, you do the rubbers, wax it. That's probably good enough. Just depends on use. Anyways, we'll see you when the wax is dry. All right, here we are about a half hour later. We got some haze on the playfield here. We're going to clean it up. just like that. Get it nice and shiny. It's going to be great. All right, we got all the rubbers on. We made sure all the lights are working. All the lights. So it's time to put the plastics back on. We just got to clean these and then put the plastics back on. All right, we got all the plastics back on. We got caps on. All the lights are working. Everything's good. Now it's time to play it. I think it looks pretty good. That's pinball. So we got a little bit of slingshot ricocheting. That's because the switch is gapped a little too tight here. And then when it comes down here, it hits this rubber, which knocks it away, so it's too far away from this flipper here. So there's an adjustment here. I got to push this out a little bit so it comes down flat here. And then I got to increase the gap here a little bit. Other than that, I think we're good. So yeah, it's a good video. All right, we're back. So I did it that time. There you go. I increased the gap on these switches here so it shouldn't slingshot like it did before, or machine gun like it did before. It's hard to get them just right because if they're too far apart, then they're not responsive. And if they're too close, then when the rubber comes back, it hits the switch again and then you get multiple. So I think we got it pretty good. Yeah, that one needs a little more. But I also put a new rubber on here so that when the ball comes, it doesn't hit here and fly out, so you can get a nice flipper shot. Let's see if that lines up. What did it hit? Alright, so I made this rubber tighter. I think I gotta make them all tighter so that it comes down nice so you can get that flipper shot. Alright, I got it all adjusted so that when you plunge the ball, it comes around all the way down here and then back to this flipper. Look at that. That's a good shot right there. Ah. Alright. Anyways. Alright, so this slingshot was ricocheting a little bit, so we're going to take it apart, take a little bit better look. The gap here, try to figure out why it's doing that. This one looks a little too close there. That's probably the reason. Alright, let's see if it still does it. I think we got it. Oh, maybe not. I think it's because it's bent out a little bit down here and it's touching near the bottom instead of just the contact where it's supposed to be touching. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so we know it's this side. I think that looks good. This other side's kind of doing it too, though. Let's take a quick look at the other side. All right, here's the other side. Yeah, I think we got it. Perfect. All right, I think one of the flippers, especially the upper flipper, looked a little weak. So I'm just going to address all three of the flippers. It's a good idea to put new sleeves in and kind of do an inspection on them too, see how they look. So we're going to do that next. All right, here is the upper flipper. You want to start by making sure the gap on the end of stroke switches is good. So you want to see that when the coil is all the way pulled in, that it has a little bit of back pressure on the switch. So you can see this part's moving a little bit when the bottom's hitting it. That's how you know it's got pressure against it. And then you want it to open just a little bit like that. So that's gapped pretty good. And you want to clean them with your Dremel. It's real good, especially these end of stroke switches. You want to make sure they're super clean. A lot of power goes through those switches, and they got to be good. All right, so now we're going to replace the sleeve. See how that looks. There's nasty sleeve here. Pretty bad. Let's put a new one in there. So with this link, anytime you see this kind of play in a flipper linkage, which is super common, that's all power that's lost from the flipper. So you want to replace the links too when they get kind of worn out like this. I ordered some, but I don't have any at the moment for the video. But I'm going to replace this link once the new parts get here. But for now, I'm just going to clean it, which still makes a big difference. But yeah, this link, I got one here I can show you too. See, they kind of get worn out. And then this can oval a bit too. And both of those areas can have play in them, and you don't want that play. So this is a link that should be replaced. So yeah, they're about $5 each. So I ordered a bag of them. I just ran out of them. So anyways, just do the links. Make a big difference in the flipper. All right, so if the link is still good, or if you're just not going to replace it, then you should at least clean it with denatured alcohol, so that when you put the new plunger on, it just doesn't get the old dirt on it. See all that? You don't want that in the new sleeve. That's what I meant. It's not plunger, sleeve. Get it all nice and clean. That makes a big difference too. And then you put the new sleeve in the coil. Put the coil back on. And the coil stop. Put the coil stop back on. And that's usually good enough. You generally don't have to do a full rebuild. With the link, the new sleeve, and cleaning it, make sure the end of stroke switch is good, gapped properly and cleaned. That usually gets you a pretty strong flipper. Now here's the flipper button for that same flipper. So if you notice, this right here doesn't have a little pad anymore for the switch like that does. So I got a new flipper switch. It's got a pad on both sides. That's going to make a big difference too. So we're going to put that new switch in. Yeah, because this is just the metal making contact, which was still working, but I think we lost a lot of power by not having a pad on there. So we'll replace this switch, and we'll see how it feels. So the wire was a little dirty, so I went ahead and snipped it shorter so I can get a nice clean spot to get a better solder connection too. There we go. You want to make sure the wire takes the solder. There you go. You can see the wire took the solder. It's hard to see in the video, but it did. Kind of looks like the wire eats the solder, and the solder is not just hanging out on the outside of the wire. There you go. All right, we got the new switch in, but as you see, we got to gap it. Let's pull this out a little bit. This feels nice. So we just want to make sure that we're doing a little more. Yeah, that's good. There you go. See, now it's not shorting. And then you want to align it too. Kind of bend it a little bit to make sure they line up nice and even. There you go. All right, let's see how that plays. Right, so at the moment, we're talking about this upper flipper. Feels pretty good. Remember, I still have to do the linkage, so it's going to get a little better, but I think it's definitely better than it was. So yeah, once we do the linkage, I think it's going to be super strong. I'm going to do the same to these bottom flippers. They're actually feeling pretty good, but I'm still going to put new sleeves on them. I'm going to clean them. I'm going to check the linkages. That feels pretty strong. I feel pretty good. I'll still do sleeves and linkages though. Linkages if needed, but definitely sleeves. Let's take a look at that. All right, while we're at it, this is what the bottom of the pop bumper looks like. So this is the pop bumper skirt. When the ball hits it, it closes this switch here. It's really important to make sure that switch is really clean so you get a nice responsive pop bumper. One of the biggest complaints I get is that the pop bumpers aren't responsive. And you can make it pretty nice here by cleaning that switch and then gapping it super close. You don't want it too close because then the pop bumper can get locked on if it shorts, but you want it pretty close. So I use my Dremel here. Let's see if I can do this on the video. Get in here and the switch specifically. Get it from this side here. So this one's the scoring switch here. That's not as important. That one usually works. That's what gives you the points. But this is the super important one here. So I'm going to go ahead and do all three. And then we want to gap them nice and tight. Good. These finishing touches really can make a game play way better than if you just kind of get almost there and give up. That looks good. All right, let's see how that plays. Pop bumpers are super responsive. And all the flippers work. Love that shot. That's a great shot. It's a great shot. So if I can't get the, trying to get the drop target. There we go, look at that. Love it. Good game. All right, you get the point. It's pinball. Love pinball. All right, so we went through this game here. We had a bunch of problems when we got it. It had been sitting a long time, wasn't working at all. The displays were bad. The flippers didn't have any power. It was dirty. It needed all new rubbers. Needed to be cleaned. You know, just some of the things weren't as responsive as they should have been. But we went through. We got it all working, and we got a good game now. Someone's going to be super happy about it. Keep flipping.